What is up? Welcome to the second episode of Not Let's Talk Rockets. We're now Rockets Talk because obviously, if you guys look in the chat in the comments from our previous video, there was a user on there that basically said we stole the name. So you know, what I mean, we're not going to be bullies or anything like that. Douche, bro, if you're listening, you could have just hit us up. You know, what I mean, you could have hit us up, but we're going to change the podcast name to Rockets Talk. Okay, so. You know what I mean? And this was Roosh's idea, right? So y'all, all the people, Big Bad Roosh, he got a little heart in there. So, uh, but what's good with you, bro? How you feeling, man?
Man, I'm chilling. I'm good. Just another day, man. What can I say? I'm ready to get. The NBA talk has been stale for a minute, right? Also,
Facts.
let a lot of people down, and there's been a lot of complaining, which I agree with, because I'm nostalgic for the '90s, and I'm an old head now, but I haven't even had the energy to argue about the All Star. Like, All Star has been trash to me for a long time,
It's been
and
it's been bad.
I'm burnt out on Adam Silver. I just don't like Adam Silver. That's me though. I don't.
Yeah. The league is heading in a direction that I mean, even me, I was like, I'm cool with it. I'm not mad at the NBA product, but yeah, that All-Star stuff, they just need to ban it. Like that was literally the worst basketball I've ever seen in my life. And I didn't even watch the rest. And I might not watch until a Rocket is actually involved in Saturday. And I'm not even doing the rookie sophomore stuff anymore.
Man,
If it's not a dunk contest or a 3-pointer or an All-Star game with a Rocket in it, I'm not watching.
I could not care less about the skills contest. The dunk contest, obviously, everybody knows is
Oh my God.
falling off a cliff. Like, bro, we were growing up like VC, Brent Berry from the free throw line. Like, I
Right.
mean, there was always something cool happening. And now it's like Steve Francis. Like now it's just like Mac McClung. Like he can dunk. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong,
Yeah.
but the person doing the dunking also matters, right? Otherwise,
Facts.
otherwise you could just go get those dudes that dunk off the internet that do the crazy dunks. Like I don't know, but maybe I'm hating.
They lost the narrative. They lost the narrative. I blame LeBron. I think Stephen A. was right about
I
that.
agree.
But let's get to the business, bro. All right. So today we got some things we want to chop it up about. You know what I mean? And we're definitely going to get to one requested item. A lot of the comments from the last podcast were talking about that we need to take a moment and look at Rafael Stone. So we'll get to that. But first, let's build our way to getting to Stone. One of the key issues the Rockets have had coming into this All-Star break has been the offense, and the offense has been surprisingly the worst part of their team, not their defense. We've been a top 10 defense for almost this entire season, pretty much the entire season, and a bottom third offense. And there was a tweet that was posted. I forgot who the user was. Basically, it was like every team's go-to play, the number one play for the Rockets was the pick and roll. And I want to start there, bro. For me personally, looking at our team with Fred VanVleet, Alperen Şengün, having a pick and roll as your highest frequency play by a lot, by a wide margin, is a bit lazy, in my opinion. And the reason I think that is because one, Şengün is not a typical pick and roll big, even though he is an elite roll man. Y'all don't get it twisted. Şengün, when he gets the ball going downhill, almost unstoppable. The problem with that two-man dynamic is the Fred VanVleet part. Now, I'm a fan of Fred VanVleet in big picture, but when you can't make a layup, when you're not really using your gifts as a mid-range shooter, your 3-point coming off the screen is good, but it's not consistent. And then the worst part of it is that he doesn't make the skip passes, the cross court passes. He doesn't hit all the trees in the pick and roll passing game that you would like. He's great at the pocket pass. He can get it to Şengün. Occasionally he'll hit the wing or the slot area, but he leaves a lot to be desired. And I just feel like that is such a lazy action, bro. Like, is there anything that you think the Rockets can do to improve that, or do you just like what they're doing with the pick and roll?
I mean, look, I like the pick and roll. I don't like how often they use the pick and roll. I don't like that. Basically, the only thing they really use like reliably is the pick and roll. So there's a lot you can get off a pick and roll. Like you said, Fred cannot make layups. And so because of that, he has to go the Steve Nash route, right? He keeps the dribble alive, he weaves it back out. If that's the offense you got, basically a defense is collapsing on the pick and roll, And then when you bring it out, you got to have shooters to kick it to take advantage. You got to have guys cutting to the basket to take advantage of the defense being back to their defender out of position. And the Rockets don't really do either of those things. Tari Eason cuts, but Tari Eason's been hurt for a while. Amen Thompson will cut, but one guy can't carry that burden. And they just don't have the shooters, right? They either don't have one or the other or a bad mixture. Like when you get those, Jayshawn Tate and Amen Thompson and I don't know, a third Jeff Green lineups that just have no release valve, nobody to kick it out to, you can't rely on that. I would like to see the Rockets get into more pistol action. I've been calling for this for a long time. You get Alp on the elbow, and then you get Jalen rubbing off the shoulder. You get Fred rubbing off, DHOs, whatever, and just action going, because that's one way you can manufacture Alp getting downhill. And like you said, as a roll man, he does work because he's getting downhill. The momentum's already created. And like right now, they don't really take advantage of his passing. They got two good passers, Fred and Alp, and they just kind of Alp's touches in terms of using him as a passer are limited. The other thing is, offensively, they have one player who can efficiently score more than 14 points a game. And if you count Fred VanVleet at 55.7% TS as efficient, then they have two players. Most people would say that's like average efficiency at best. So let's include them.
Right.
They got two players who can efficiently score over 14 a game. It's just not going to cut it today, right? So I don't know.
I mean, that's a great point. I think even the location of their pick and rolls, we don't really run a lot of pick and rolls into the empty corner. So I mean, like we just don't do a lot. I don't know if that's Udoka. Is that the players? You look at the skill set, like you said, a lot of our outlet passes are minus shooters. I put up a graph a month ago on the Rockets in the starting five. The only positive shooters on wide open threes are Dylan Brooks and I think Fred VanVleet.
It has to be Aaron Holiday. Had to be in there.
On the starters.
Okay.
And no, he was not. Maybe he is now. He was and the parameters for that graph were wide open threes as defined by the NBA, which is 6 with the defender 6 feet away, and then open threes, which is I think is like 2 to 6 feet.
Okay.
And I averaged out both of those averages and across the team. 4 players are above the league average. It's Fred, it's Dylan, Jabari, and Cam Whitmore. Everybody else is a negative. Now, you take away Cam because he doesn't play that much anymore. So it's Fred, Jabari, and Dylan. And then you start, if you're running a pick and roll, it leaves Jabari and Dylan Brooks out there as the spacers for it. And then Coach Udoka, my problem with that, knowing this, a lot of the lineups feature guys like Jayshawn Tate and Jeff Green out there as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they have an analytics department, or I know they have an analytics department, but to me, it doesn't make sense. I don't know if he sees this. Is he like silently protesting against Rafael Stone with these lineups that he throws out? But it doesn't make sense. I'm going to read off some. This is from Center's Culture. Shout out to Rockets Midi on Twitter, or Midi Rockets, whatever his handle is. He has a site, and I'll put this on the link for y'all to see. Right now, the Rockets' offensive efficiency ranks when it comes to the half court, we're ranked 20th, which isn't too bad. The thing that sticks out to me, the pick and roll, we're in dead middle, 15th. On spot up threes, we're 1.06. Off screen, we're 23rd, which is terrible. DHO and handoffs, this is what you were just alluding to, 9th in the NBA, right? But if you look at the frequency for DHO and handoff for the Houston Rockets, we are one of the worst teams at that, in that we rank 24th.
There you go.
So this to me looks like Silas ball.
Yeah.
And this is the exact same remedy we had last year. A lot of pick and rolls, not a lot of, other types of sets. And when I look at this team, we don't have a pick and roll guard. So it's a mismatch of a roster and a philosophy on offense that Coach Udoka is trying to do, which has been something I've been like, he's talking about looking in the mirror. I'm looking at him in the mirror. Like, what is something that he needs to change? I think offensively, they got to start there.
I agree with that. If I have a critique of him, if I have 2 critiques of him so far as a coach, it would be what you mentioned. Some of these rotations, sometimes I'm like, what are we like? It feels like the old school tough coach going with the tough players, and it's like, yeah, but Jeff Green is 37 and Jayshawn Tate's not very good. So I mean, you're just hurting your team when you go through stretches of the game like that. Effectively, sometimes that can lose you a game. That's critique number 1, and critique number 2 is the offense. It's just stagnant. It's not creative. One way that you can compensate for not having, the skill set. Like, let's be real. The Rockets, when they play other teams, most of the time, The Rockets are out talented. And I know people are high on the talent that the Rockets have, and I agree, and that's correct. But as far as actual realized potential, I'm not talking about future potential. I'm talking about currently realized potential. The Rockets, pound for pound, like I said, they got two players that score more than 14 efficiently. Like we're just not able to out talent other teams. So how do you overcome that? You move off the ball, you cut, right? When guys, you take advantage of the gifts you have. Amen Thompson, athlete. Jalen Green, athlete. Cam Whitmore, athlete. Tari Eason, long, can slash. Like you take advantage. Jabari can shoot off movement. By the way, we haven't seen it enough
Yes.
to really know, but like in terms of to get the statistical data on it, or if it exists, please tell me wrong. But he can shoot off of movement, and I would go so far as to say that my eye test says that he shoots better off movement than as like a standstill spot up shooter. And right now, and pretty much for most of his career, they primarily use him spotting up. So they need to move off the ball more and figure out how to use those talents. And just that's one way to play harder than another team, right? Think Utah, think Sacramento, like think Denver. I want that type of offense. Guys are constantly screening, moving, creating. Like, man, we forget. People talk about the most skilled era, which we can disagree. We can argue about that another day, but I disagree with that statement. But learning how to move off of the ball is a skill. Like
Yeah.
make no mistake about that. If it wasn't, people would just do it and make it look easy, but they don't. So yeah, I mean, I would like to see Udoka get, like I said, some pistol action, run a pick and roll into an empty corner, and let your guys go to work. Let Jalen get comfortable, whoever it is. Let Cam go to work, whatever it is. Screens off the ball, run some curls for Jabari to come catch the ball, or Jalen to come catch the ball at the free throw line, get into a triple threat, rise up and shoot, or just straight up catch and shoot. Mix it up, you know. So that's what I would say. But I don't think we're going to get that
I, I
this
I
season.
I think you hit on something with the one about the skill. Yeah, I don't think I think there are certain players that are more skilled. I definitely do not, because back in the day, most guards came out with post work
Yep.
in their bags. You know what I mean? I think players were way more skills because they were demanded to do more. Now it's really just shooting and attacking the
Can
basket.
I just say
I
on that point,
Go ahead.
like I feel like the skill, and this isn't the whole argument, but it's just one piece of it. I feel like the skill level shifted from interior players to perimeter players. But make no mistake, there was still Latrell Sprewells and Tim Hardaways and guys like that.
Right.
So Kenny Anderson, Stephon Marbury, Iverson's still
Allen
around.
Houston. You know
You
what I
know what I
mean?
mean?
Yeah.
And but back in the day, the big men had the footwork and they had the skill and they had the
Yeah.
touch. And now it's shifted. So like for whatever you gain, whatever skills perimeter players gain, you lose on another end of the floor. And that's a big part I think people forget. But sorry.
Yeah, and to like what I've seen with Jabari is the movement shooting inside the 3 point line. When him and Shangoon, especially when they do big on big screens inside inside the arc, I mean, he hits those shots very comfortably, and I think that's a range he needs to explore more. It's just so much is left to be desired. Some of the things I would love to see, I don't know if we can see it because you kind of pointed at something. Running a cohesive offense requires IQ and collective IQ, which if I'm not, I'm not trying to down the team. I don't think these might be the as a group, some of the lowest IQ players aggregated in one team for the past 3 years. Like this, we've been subjected to some really, really low IQ ball. Like let's keep it a buck. And just to like somebody, I think we talked about this. Somebody said comment was like Jalen needs to play like a Reggie Miller. I think not it wasn't you said Reggie Miller. Somebody else said somebody like Rip Hamilton. There
I
you go.
said both of those. And let me clear.
I know, but somebody before you, I remember
Okay.
somebody
Okay.
had said that to me prior to your thing, right?
Okay.
Just we were just talking, and I told them that running through screens, bro, you have to like have a level of understanding of the total offense
Yes.
and what other guys are doing while they're doing it
Yep.
to be able to be in the right spot to get that pass from a guy that's on the opposite end of the court.
100%.
So it's not just running around randomly. But like you really have to be a savant in a way because you got to know, anticipate where the screens are coming from and knowing which spot you're getting to 3-4 screens in advance. And if your dude can't read a pick and roll one screen read, why do I trust him to be able to run around and do those things? So, and there's a couple of players on our roster that fit into that category.
Such as.
And I think, yeah, I mean, I don't think Cam Whitmore can do that. Jabari probably can't do that right now. I don't think, maybe Dylan. I think the vets can probably do it. I think you can. Reggie Bullock's obviously the guy you love. He can. I know he can do it for a fact. He's done that in his career. But
you're missing one who can do it. He just can't shoot.
Who, don't say Aaron
No,
Holiday.
no, no. uh,
I know you love the dude, but damn,
School's out, baby. It's holiday. No, Amen,
holiday season. But yeah,
Amen Thompson. Amen Thompson knows how to cut. Now he can't.
that's
He
facts.
can't cut to a space.
Can't do anything with it.
Well, no,
Yeah,
but he
yeah.
knows how to cut to the basket and slip behind. He knows his angles doing
True.
that. But I agree with you, right? Like when you're coming off a screen, like Rip Hamilton knew how to time it, but that also, you got to give Chauncey Billups credit, right? Because he knew how to feed him. It's a symbiotic game.
It's just like the Spurs, just like the Warriors. You got to be on a like one chain on offense, and that does like beg the question as we're looking towards the future, and we're going to talk about like the type of lineups we would like to see. For me, with the lineup changes that the Rockets are supposedly making, I don't think they're going to make a change. But if they did, I would like to see that like more is the movement off ball. And one of the prerequisites for me for that to happen, honestly, I think that in order for a player, a guard in this era to play like that, it has to be some level of selflessness to it because it takes the ball out of your hands and it's going to put the ball in Şengün's hand more than anything. And I think for me, what I've seen, one of the issues the Rocket have is that they're not addressing the main issue of setting a priority on offense. And they're letting Jalen try to figure stuff out. Some nights it's Dylan trying to take over. You have Şengün when he's on, he's going to be more aggressive. Sometimes he's passive. You have, Jabari never really gets his turn, but it's like different guys have the opportunity to do what they want. And for a team, I just don't think that's the best way to run offense because you get the variance from night to night. We don't know where our bread is buttered except with the pick and roll or a Şengün wedge roll, which teams are starting to load up on and defend, and they become really, really hard to score. So a lineup for me, I'm going to say my perfect lineup right now is going to be Fred VanVleet healthy, and I'm putting Fred as half on, half off ball in this scenario as the point guard. And Man Thompson, I'm going to put him at the two. The reason I'm putting a man at the two is because what you just said. I want him cutting. I want him in a dunker spot. I want him being a screener. I want him just doing everything on the court. And then if you look at the Rockets' rebounds rates, when Amen Thompson's on the court, he's the best offensive rebounder we have. He's the best, one of the like top two in defensive rebounds. He's a rebounding monster. Obviously, the defense is improving. It's getting better. Dylan Brooks, I ain't gonna lie, bro. If I see a couple more of these games he has, I'm ready for Tari Eason to take that spot. So if we're doing this, no politics, no. In fact, you know what? I'm benching Dylan, bro. Put Tari at the three.
Okay.
He's gonna come off the bench for me. Put Jabari at the four, and because I think Tari, I don't need to explain why he's a lead at what he does. Jabari, I still think he needs the spacing. He does, even though he's in a slump. Team still respect his shot. And obviously Al P. I think with that lineup, you get cutting, you get defense, the wing defense. I think those are some of our smarter defenders, and you limit a lot of the stuff that we shouldn't be doing in certain situations. And then you get the bench with Jalen, with Aaron Holiday, Dylan Brooks, and stuff coming in. Now I know this is probably not going to happen, but that's what I think. If I had a lineup that I would say this is the best lineup for the Rockets right now, I'll go with that.
Okay. Yeah, when you said that two guard is going to have to be somebody that's comfortable, getting the ball out of their hands, first thought for me was Amen Thompson because he's able to cut. He can be like people think he's a point guard, and maybe he will become a point guard. I think he's like a jumbo playmaking wing.
He's a wing.
Yeah, do it
He's a
all.
wing. Yeah,
So I don't see him as like an every down back, right? Which is
facts.
totally fine. And anyway, so I just agree with that point. Now my lineup will go. You got to go Fred at the point guard. Period. Like I just don't see an argument against that. I think the Rockets are 1-6 without Fred this season, and the one was they won on they beat New York when Aaron Holiday got bailed out at the end. Right, that game should have went to overtime.
Yeah.
Could easily be 0-7 without him. So got to go Fred at the two. Now this question for me is if I can run my offense, right? So if I can run my offense and not Udoka's offense, or even Udoka's offense actually, because you need a kick out guy. I'm gonna go Cam Whitmore. I
Okay.
love the tone he sets offensively. Um, I just love how he attacks, and he's the best. I think he's the best pure shooter on the team. Period. And for a team that is desperately lacking, I feel like you need that. So I'm gonna go Fred, Cam Whitmore. It's hard at the three. Like, am I going Dylan Brooks or Tari? I'm kind of fed up with Dylan Brooks. He's been playing. He's been playing like the guy I thought we were going to get, right? The guy I was afraid that they were going to get. He's been playing like that lately. But then he has those games where he goes off. Lately, he's been feeling himself too much. He's been shooting too much, and he's just been hijacking offensive possessions. Like Memphis Dylan Brooks is what I've seen lately. The flip side of that is that I think he still shoots somewhere around 40% from three. So it's like, man, on this team that is desperate for guys who can shoot, and he's not afraid to shoot. And some of these guys
Right.
seem kind of afraid to shoot. So I'm hesitant because I think Tari makes the Rockets their best team. So I'm going to go Tari. I'm going to go Tari. Tari because I think that he has this effect on the team where it's winning basketball. The numbers can quantify it, the advanced numbers, but I don't know how to explain him. When you watch it, you just know he's everywhere. He's the ultimate like connector glue piece, right? And he shoots well enough to make it work. But he creates extra possessions with his offensive rebounds, also with his steals. And then having a 7'2" wingspan and huge hands
Yeah.
is not a joke, right? There's a reason that when he guards people, he just has to stick his hand up and obviously creates a difficult shot. And then on offense, he's just always shooting, like crashing the boards. On defense, he's shooting lanes. Sometimes he gambles, but a lot of times for a team that struggles to create magic, he can be that guy that does it. So Fred, Cam, Tari, Jabari, for the obvious reason, defensive versatility, hustle, spreads the floor. If we can use him my way, I'm moving him. I'm using him off of movement. I'm doing backdoor cuts, baseline for Cam Whitmore, the way that Russell Westbrook used to do when you catch those lobs. Just a variety of looks, movement, catch and shoot type guys, and then Şengün at the five. Although it's tough because I could be persuaded into a men and I could be persuaded into Dylan Brooks. I do think, I don't know if you saw, I didn't read the article, but I picked up some pieces from the article from M. Shapiro. Is it Michael Shapiro? I'm not sure what his first name is. I think he writes.
Yeah, I just had it up. Yeah, I did read it. Great. I actually really enjoyable article to read. His name Michael
There
Shapiro,
you go. Okay.
correct. As Rockets collapse, Udoka get into new lineup. Who will lead the bench?
Yes. So
Yeah, that's the name of it.
he covers the team. He's not, I would imagine that his opinions are informed. And I'm pretty sure you tell me I think he hinted at Amen potentially being the guy to supplant
That's the
Jalen.
cover image, and he goes through and breaks down the men's thing. I think that if another candidate that we didn't talk about is Aaron Holiday.
Oof.
As much as I give this dude a lot of grief, I ain't gonna lie, but you go look at the numbers, bro. When him and Fred and the starters are out there, they're beating teams a lot,
Really? What's the net rating?
and all. Yeah, and I was disappointed to see those numbers. To be honest, I was going through like, damn, like the guy you hate.
I'm telling you, look, there's something about him. Listen, early in the season, the Rockets lose probably a few more games if Aaron Holiday does not play in place of Jalen and save some of those games. He's not great. Journeyman, third stringer, 6 foot
Right.
combo guard. I get it. Sometimes he hijacks possessions as well and just like needs to fall back and be a catch and shoot guy. I agree with all that. But again, same thing with Dylan. You're kind of in this weird place where you just need guys that aren't afraid to shoot and who can actually hit the
Yeah.
shot. Like at the end of the day, I bet Udoka's sitting there like, yo, I'm not trying to go through the growing pains when we're losing. Holiday, get in there. But I think that's a lineup you can use as a change-up lineup in the middle of the game. And if you come out like that, I think it's tough to set a tone
Yeah, it's
defensively.
too small.
Exactly.
They're too small. I was on another pod with James Piercy, and he brought up a point that I really liked. The way I look at this lineup change, especially with if you have to bench Jalen Green, if they do bench Jalen Green, the reason I wouldn't want a vet to be there because I still think those reps are valuable. To me, one of the things that Jalen is doing, honestly, is like if he's not going to use his
He's
reps to
taking
the
reps
full
away.
advantage, he's taking reps away from a guy that could possibly be a mainstay for your team down the future. So the only justifiable thing for me, if they're going to bench him, I want cameramen in there because at least you're killing two birds with one stone. You're bringing a productive player and you're still prepping a player that may be a big part of your future, and you're getting data in the meantime to make an informed decision going
I
down
think there's zero chance that it's
as
going to
you
be
go.
Cam. I think
I know it.
like for me, we got to think, right? We got to think there's what we would do, and then there's what do we think Ime would do, right? And I think Ime would go with the Men Thompson. Defensive versatility,
Yeah.
extra playmaker. He's already shown like he'll play that kid 35 something minutes, right? He doesn't care. He seems to have more trust in him. I think he does have more trust in him than Jalen at this point. But to your
Yeah.
point, that's part of why I've been so focused, by the way, on Jalen Green this season is because it's like, how much more do you empty reps if you don't think those reps will end up being productive for your team, for your situation, versus starting to dump those reps into, hey, we got Cam Whitmore right there waiting in the wings. Hey, we got a Ben Thompson who's already starting to contribute. So I think it's a valid question. But I think if they bench somebody, it would be with Udoka. I'm sorry, with Udoka, with Amen. And frankly, I really don't even see an argument to continue starting Jalen other than if you want to say like, yo, you can't lower his value, or you want to keep getting him the reps. But I would push back and say if he starts and doesn't pick it up, so maybe he does pick it up and none of this matters. But if he doesn't pick it up, I think that hurts his value because then it would confirm like, hey, the Rockets don't win with Jalen Green. We don't want him on the trade market.
Yeah, and scouts in the NBA, they know what Jalen is. I don't think you can trick anybody. It does, even if he has a good run, he is what he is. I think that the best upside a team would be looking at is like, okay, change of scenery, young guy, talented. Maybe we can figure it out for him, and let's take a risk type deal
Yep.
instead of like, oh yeah, the Rockets are just they don't know how to use him. I think everybody kind of knows what his limitations are. But to the point of trading Jalen roster value, we can pivot on to the man of the hour, Rafael Stone. And we were on the spaces today, and we kind of started the conversation about Stone. When different people fall on different sides of the fence about him. Some people think he's done okay job. I haven't seen anybody say he's done an excellent job. Most people are either just he's okay or he's terrible. I fall in between that because if I judge him, man, we talked about this. Like the way I'm going to judge Stone, I'm going to judge him based on what the Rockets' goals are for their current situation. The goal of the tank era, according to them, is to develop players. And to me, if you're going to tank, you're going to develop players and accumulate assets over that period. I think in the development and the accumulation, they didn't do a good job. They didn't do a good job. We came out of that tank as asset poor as any team that has come out of a tank. It's like basically we came out of the tank like we were a contender in that stretch of years. The way we wasted assets, so I can't give them a pass on that. The drafting the players, A+, right? We got A+, that's pending. If Jalen Green is not good, then what are we talking about? But I'll give that because I know that's what people always go to. Let's say we give him an A+. You didn't accumulate assets by using your cap space. Yes, the John Wall thing was there, but you were able to come off of that. You overkept players, et cetera, et cetera. Late on deals, all those things happen. But even coming out of that, blank slate for this season, the Rockets' goals were for them to make the playoffs. They said it. I didn't say it. Coach Udoka said it, and Tillman Fertitta said it. Stone wouldn't say it because he's a lawyer. He knows better than that.
Phase
He's not going to
two.
say that. Yes, phase two. Tillman defined it for everybody. Y'all need to listen when people talk. The man said is making the playoffs, and he said phase three is contending for a championship. So there's a clear distinction between being a lottery team in phase one and being a team that is in the playoffs, which we assume the play-in is included in phase two. And not only is that the charge from the head honcho of the franchise, the owner, then you also have the assets to be able to utilize towards that goal. And they were in a position to do that. You get one of the best coaches on the market. You also bring in two vets with over $60+ million to address those issues. The third vet reneged on his contract, which was Brooke Lopez. And then the pivot from that wasn't a plan B, C, or D of like a tactician GM would have. If Brooke Lopez doesn't work, we're going to blah, 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 blah. The next plan was plan X, which is just inflate contracts and give it to any warm bodies we could find. And that's how we end up with Jock Landale, Jeff Greens of the world. Now, Jeff Green, I like him as a pick. The Kevin Porter thing, we all saw what happened with that. To me, like it would not never been an issue if his contract wasn't a thing. It was a thing. It was set up the way it was set up because Stone gave him a contract. And maybe he would have had a great year, but he did what he did. Pivoting out of that, the Oladipo trade, you gave up assets to dump a player who you ended up flipping for a player that doesn't play. So those you could have just saved your picks and just done nothing or cut him or whatever. You would have saved 5 second round picks. I look at the roster construction from even the Christian Wood and Daniel Tice and all these guys we've had throughout these years. Up until now, I haven't seen this brother put together a functional roster that says, if I look at him, say, yeah, that makes sense what this GM is trying to do. I have no idea what he's trying to do. The excuse of they're figuring it out only works for so long because, once again, The Rockets are in the National Basketball Association, where they compete against other basketball teams who have GMs who are collecting data like us and aggregating talent and salary and assets, and they're making moves to be competitive. If we are in a state of limbo, there's no way you can go from that to just being like, okay, we're here, we're gonna win. So for me, I personally, is he on the hot seat? I think you damn right, bro. Like, I personally, if I was his boss, like, what do you even say to Tillman? Like, if you make the lottery this year, if you're a lottery team, like, so I think for me, like, I think he's on the hot seat. If they finish in the lottery and like legit in the lottery, I think there's really not much else I want to see from his performance. And I think they should make a move to try to either find somebody else or move him to a different position. This off season. I may be okay if they like finish with 35 plus wins and they somehow don't make the playoffs. Then maybe we can give them a little bit of time to put together another shot at roster. But man, I think the dude is either down to this summer or pretty much he's gone. That's what I view it as. Maybe you see it different.
So, man, you went in there to finish with 35 wins. By the way, just to be for the record, they're 24-30. That means they have 28 games left. They would have to go 11-17 to finish with 35 wins. So let's see if they do that.
That's
Let's
doable.
do
That's
it.
doable.
Now, you went in. It's. I don't really actually don't disagree with anything you just said. To add on to that and to kind of elaborate on the main point, I can probably go down a rabbit hole on all the moves I disagree with because I disagree with quite a bit. Jared Allen, they traded Jared Allen, by the way, um, and they didn't draft Evan Mobley. And I don't think Evan Mobley's all that personally, but his floor right now is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, first team All Defense type guy, or his floor, I guess, is a potential all team defense player. But his ceiling clearly has been first team, and he's probably going to be in many DPOYs as long as he stays healthy for the season. In the future, his floor is like 16 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks a game, right? Um, both guys they gift wrapped and handed to Cleveland, and both guys that they could have just had on their roster, but instead you got to spend net plus 5 second round picks to get an injured Steven Adams for one season. Just one example of like, man, that feels mismanaged. And there's so many rebuttals to that. I know, oh, you're gonna win. You wouldn't be in the lottery with Jared Allen if you kept him. Well, the Cavaliers were, and they got Evan Mobley. So explain that to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The Spurs the next season they trade Jakob Pertl on an expiring deal for like a first round pick and I think another pick. Um, and the Rockets trade Jared Allen and Taurean Prince for a pick from the Cavs by way of Milwaukee, who's in the middle of like their championship run. And then they got to trade PJ Tucker for DJ Augustine and who was that other guy? Oh man,
Some Russian or
no,
something.
no, no, no,
Yeah,
no, no.
yeah. I
He was
forgot
in the
it.
other
Oh,
deal.
not him.
It was a DJ something. Oh man, he played center. He was like 6'11". He's not.
Oh, yeah, with the braids, light
Yes,
skin dude. Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. Not in the league anymore. And they trade
Yes.
PJ Tucker for that and the right to like move their second round pickup, 6 picks to basically take Josh Christopher, who they had to dump, right, for nothing, and maybe even attach a second round pick. I can't remember. It's just strings of transactions like this. Also in the deal, they pushed the Bucks pick back one year, and then the pick they got for Jared Allen and Taurean Prince, by the way, two players, one late ass pick, and then they got to take that pick and use Eric Gordon plus that pick to flip just to swap, not even get an extra, not get a separate first round pick, which they had on the table multiple times for Eric Gordon and they refused. And then they move up, 8 spots, 10 spots, whatever. They take Cam Whitmore. Everyone's happy. Some people are happy with the result. I'm criticizing the process though, because if you look at it, it looks like a lot of wasted potential, wasted transactions that were not thought out, where the ending point, the stopping point was kind of just, yeah, we'll see what happens. We got a couple picks to throw. Fuck it. And that's just not that's risky business to me. Whereas when you see these other teams, they were actively selling certain guys off. They were assessing talent, flipping it, picking up just little deals. The Rockets did one like that. I think when they got Sekou Doumbouya from the Nets or the Pistons, I can't remember, and they picked up like a random second round pick. They've done a couple moves like that, but not near enough. You would do for a tanking team, right? You sign Daniel Tice,
Right.
4 years, 36, then you flip him for nothing. Basically, you get 26 games of Dennis Schroeder. Just pointless transactions, right? The best move they made is getting Alperen Şengün. They took those two, middling first round picks, which I think they were lotto protected picks from both the Wizards, which they got from the John Wall trade. By the way, they traded
John
Russell
Watcher.
Westbrook for John Wall, and then the Wizards flipped Russell Westbrook for contracts they could actually break down and do something with. Like it's just, and then they took a pick from that was lotto protected, I think, from Detroit when they got Christian Wood, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Put those together, traded to get Şengün. Great move. So deserves credit for like that's probably the best move he's made, I think. Everything else is just kind of they overpaid. They've overpaid for almost everything that they've acquired. I like the Steven Adams trade. I'm not going to complain about the overpay, but it is an overpay, and they only like they basically like you said wasted 5 second round picks because they had to keep the Kevin Porter Jr. contract slot alive because they had to give him guaranteed money, which was a mistake. Could have seen it from a mile away. They made the mistake. Jalen Green was not the consensus guy to get drafted there. So that's if that pick doesn't work out, that's another one of his signature moves that, he went against the grain to make that move. Really high profile move. The highest draft pick in Rockets franchise history since Yao Ming, right? 2 decades. And like he went against the grain. And if Jalen doesn't work out, I think there's a lot of subtext to that thing, where like if he doesn't work out, there's a lot of, I think, internal failure that would have to be admitted. But it all brings me back to what you said, which is, I think, the most important point. However you want to look at it. If you want to hop in the comments and say, oh, but he's killed it in the draft and give him check marks across the board, call it whatever you want. Okay. The team, the roster that was built just has always had major holes in it. Major holes with no backstop, no plan, no midseason way to actually adequately address it. In the first couple years, okay, that was fine. Tanking team. We were losing games. They were just trying to see what those kids could do. I would argue that obviously, and I think you might agree, that creates a terrible culture and it might be responsible
Yeah.
for some of the things we've seen and some of the difficulties we might be seeing among certain guys, and also why certain other of those guys are out of the league now or are just at the very end of a bench. And if it's not the culture, then it's because they're not good at basketball and the Rockets drafted them. So it's really hard to, either way. So, okay, they're tanking. The holes don't matter. Fine. This season, no clear backup point guard. Aaron Holiday kind of emerged and became a thing when he previously really wasn't thought to be. No backup center at all. Jack Landale
At all.
at all.
Yeah.
Jack Landale was, pretty much a bust of a signing, right? He's not been able to be relied upon for 10 to 15 minutes a game, which is what we kind of all thought we were going to get. So they have had to force 37-year-old Jeff Green to be the backup center, even though he's like 6'8" and he's really not a center. And that's a fallout from Brook Lopez being plan A with only a plan X behind that, right? Alperen Şengün was supposed to be the backup center. They didn't know what to do basically once Brook Lopez reneged on them. So that's the thing. Do you trust the Rockets to build a roster that actually works, that is well thought out, that evidences, hey, that person knew what, like when Daryl Morey put those teams together and then you saw it play out once that Chris Paul team hit you, for me, it was like, whoa, I
Yeah.
see what you're doing. This is brilliant. Holy shit. Amazing. Right. And we had the magical season that the Rockets had. You look at the great teams, the Nuggets, you're like, man, that is such a beautifully built team. They understand who their personnel is. They understood what they needed to do to go supplement that personnel and bring it to life. You look at the Kings even. You can criticize them for trading Tyrese Halliburton. That's fine. They built a pretty nice team. They know what their identity is, right? Whether they win a championship or not, we can debate. Okay. But there is the team building it's something to kind of enjoy. Orlando, really interesting team that's being built over there in Orlando. You could go down the list, right? Do you get that same confidence from the Rockets? And there are times where I see it, right, when Jabari and Tari and Dylan Brooks are all out there together with Fred VanVleet and Şengün, and you're like, oh, this is actually really cool. These guys are defending across the board. They're flying to the ball. You have like perfect size across the board. Maybe not with Fred, maybe not with Şengün, but those three in the middle are just like 6'6", 6'7". Jabari 6'11",
Yeah.
and they are all long and defensive and versatile. All that. You see it. And then other times you're just like, man, what is this roster? Jayshawn Tate, Jeff Green, Aaron Holiday playing big minutes. Like, what am I watching right now? So you take a lot of swings in the draft. You get a lot of talent. That's great. Rockets have done that. We can debate those picks. The only one of the lottery picks that was not like when ESPN puts that little ticker at the bottom that says, best available. Every time the Rockets had a lotto pick, they took the best available except for Jalen Green,
Yeah.
right? So Amen Thompson would have been the best available. Jabari Smith, best available. They were just no-brainer picks. And deserve credit, give them credit. That's fine. Jalen was against the grain. So they've got those 6 players, Cam, Tari, and obviously we can talk about Cam falling to them, but I'll give them credit for it anyways. Cam, Tari, Şengün, great move. Jalen will see. Amen. Jabari, right? So if they don't get a star out of that, and then if they don't actually know which of those guys can be moved, which of those guys to extend, at what price, which I think might be Stone's plus side is structuring the contract,
Yeah.
So that's something that I have decent faith in him in, but I am worried that he might get a little too cute with certain extensions and things might get heated. We'll see. That's just me thinking, but we'll see what actually happens. So all in all, I say all of that to say, at the end of the day, do you have confidence that they can really build a functional, competitive, good, contending team? So far, I have a lot of questions, and I think it's a good rule of thumb to be very skeptical and very wary of somebody that keeps kicking the can down the road and like, hey, yo, just we need more time. We need more time. Let these guys develop. We need more time. Yes, development is not linear. I get it. Yes, development takes time. However, as you said, this is the National Basketball Association. Things move fast. People strike. People build. Empires rise. Right. The best get it done. At the end of the day, it is a cutthroat business. You gotta be measured on a curve against who you're going against. Just because I like how these players hoop and there's a lot of potential. If they don't have, if they are 24th in potential, if they have the 21st best record, at the end of the day, all that potential, if it's not actualized and realized, then what is it? So that's where I'm at. I'm not, it's not like, oh my God, it's doomsday, but it's like, where is this? What is the ultimate vision for the team? Who are we building around? Where does everyone fit? What kind of piece are we looking for? Because I feel like right now it's just been a lot of like, yeah, we'll see what happens. So
Yeah, I think that, and the indecision is a theme, and I think people have to realize that Stone, even though he was in the front office, there's a different seat to be somebody that works with contracts and all those and working with paperwork and dealing with all that, kind of legal stuff than actually being a executive that is in charge of like leadership in the sense of organizational vision. I work in admin in a hospital setting. So I understand that there are certain people that are good for the numbers and there are certain people that are trash with the numbers, but they can get you to run through a wall
yep.
and they can sell a vision. They can, and to me, the visionary is to me as a leader, that's one of the most important skill sets to have. And I don't like you. I do not know what his vision is. And I don't know if he knows what his vision is. And I think the fact that he is a new at that position of general manager shouldn't be underplayed in the sense the way that Şengün and Jalen and Jabari are new to the NBA because he's competing against vets like Danny Ainge, like Sam Presti out there in the world, like the Pat Rileys out there. And these are the guys he has to line up against. And when you ask the question of do I trust him to beat them in this game? My answer is no because I don't think he has the experience. I don't think he has the wherewithal, the know-how. He does, Daryl was a prodigy as a general manager. I think Daryl was somebody that is like he was special at what he does. So I'm not even comparing him to Daryl, but to me, you got to be able to take risks and you got to do everything we've done has been either very safe or very late, and you just can't win like that in this league. I'm willing to give him personally to me, I'm going to give him this offseason. I think they shouldn't fire him just yet. But one thing, the Jalen Green situation, to me, if Jalen Green is moved, it's going to be such a massive failure on the Rockets for multiple reasons, development, structure, all these things for the gambles. That to me, if Jalen Green is moved, I think it almost requires that as soon as feasible, they should move on from Stone. Because if I'm Tillman Fertitta, I drug this franchise through a mud for 3 seasons with the promise of yielding something tangible and valuable out of it. And maybe Şengün is that yield. But that number 2 pick, I'm not a guy that let's say if we get Cam Whitmore with pick swap, hell, why didn't we have 2 picks? We could have got another player and Cam. I want more because more is what wins. More in the NBA, like OKC, those teams that get the extra. Nah, we want SGA. We're not moving till we get SGA. We want SGA. We want all them picks and SGA. Those are the teams that come out on top. So all this like marginal, we're gonna win here. That's not gonna get it. But like I'm not. I think this offseason, they've backed themselves so far into a corner this year that if they don't strike out on something, and this team comes back the same way it is next year, man, I probably think that they are gonna like have to blow up at least the front office aspect of it with some of the basketball people in there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm gonna hold them to what they said was playoffs, right? Tillman said that in the whatever the preseason, right? So that's what I said before the season. I was like, yeah, I'm going to judge Stone on what happens this season. And if they don't meet their expectations, then I'm just going to hold them to their word. I think that's the most fair thing to do. When you say Jalen Green failing would be huge, I agree with that. It's like, yo, I have to imagine Tillman Fertitta sitting there going, hey, we, stained our name for this kid, right? Like that we don't even, hasn't proven himself, is kind of, we're thinking about moving on from. We're questioning if we're going to extend. Like I'm worried about extending Jalen out of pride because of that attachment. Um, you know, Patrick Fertitta makes decisions at some level for sure. Like for example, the Ime Udoka thing, right? Like the Fertittas were involved with that, and so they deserve credit for that. But we'll see. I've been a fan of getting somebody who is like a seasoned, bona fide, been there, done that GM. I think that's what you need for a rebuild, personally, right? And I don't think that should be a hot take. I don't think that should be controversial. I just want someone. My dog just got surgery, and I had to make the decision about, and it's a serious surgery, and it was an emergency surgery. I had to make the decision about doing it at an emergency 24/7 animal hospital or waiting until the morning and risking potentially valuable time to have it done in trusted hands, right? I didn't know who I, I didn't know who I was
Go
about to
ahead,
hand
go
my
for it.
dog to. You know what I mean? I didn't want Mr. Up and Comer, I don't know. I wanted Mr. I know certified, right? And so you take that analogy, this rebuild should have been overseen by somebody who's done a rebuild, right? Not by somebody, and I am a lawyer. I am a deal making transactional lawyer. And we can be unimaginative people sometimes. We can be by the book. We can be we're all about mitigating and managing risk, right? And that's not
Mm.
necessarily what gets you the big hit, the SGA, the Harden trade. Guys like Morey are like, big board, like, okay, this is the vision. We're consulting. This is how we fix your business. Here's the data. Here are the analytics. This is how we make it happen. Lawyers are like, okay, well, what are the risks? And let's make sure we can avoid all those risks. Or what's your tolerance for risk? You know what I mean? It's like really nerdy shit, obviously. But I guess one is restrictive and like, hey, well, let's put the bars on this and make sure we're good and laced up. And the other one is ambitious and like, no, we think that this calculation we put together is going to yield us this badass thing. Let's go get it. Right. And so I think that is a philosophical way to kind of describe and define the contrast, at least between those two eras. Not longing for Daryl Morey. There's life after Morey, I believe, obviously. Um, but yeah, like a name that was floated multiple times was Dennis Lindsey, who I think is with the
Mm.
Utah Jazz. Someone like that would make me feel good about, okay, because at this point, man, when the trade deadline comes, the last 3 years we just been like, what the fuck's going to happen? I don't even know. And they wait to the last minute. You said indecision is a theme. I think that's a great encapsulation of it. Indecision is a theme, and they just wait until the last second. Christian Wood, you don't have to believe me. I don't care. I have word that Christian Wood was traded because the Rockets thought they were going to get Paolo Banchero, and Paolo Banchero's agent, I believe, is Mike Miller, was like, "Yeah, we ain't playing with Christian Wood." So, like, why do I bring that up? Because they weren't proactive about trading Christian Wood. They were reactive to a situation that didn't even end up happening, right? And hey, even if that's not true, take it or leave it. I don't care. The point is, Eric Gordon. They waited until the last second. James Harden. I mean, if they were proactive, if they had the vision to be like, you know what, there is no way James Harden's coming back, right? Which I think James Harden made pretty clear. So I have to imagine that people that were closest to the situation, if they had any sense of intuition, that they would have known, like, yo, James ain't coming back, dude. Once Daryl leaves, once Mike leaves, this thing is blowing up. They could have been proactive about that and fished offers out. Instead, they ended up getting what they got, and I like the picks they got. I've defended the picks that they got. Um, But the back half of that deal, the whole Jared Allen, Oladipo stuff that we've already discussed, they came up empty-handed. And when you look at franchises that make those blockbuster, like, hey, this is going to change the trajectory of our franchise type deals, they come out with something. What's that Denzel meme? I'm leaving here with something, right?
I'm leaving here with
You know,
something.
so
Yeah.
like they come out of it with something, right? The Pelicans got the pick that became Zion, and they got Lonzo and Brandon Ingram and Josh Hart, and then they make moves from there, and they lose some of those guys, and whatever they do, they do. But that's a haul, right? The Thunder, SGA.
Thunder. Yeah.
I mean, come on, SGA like that. They could throw all the picks away. They got SGA. They're good, right?
And the Clippers did not want to give up SGA like
Right.
that. I listened to a Zach Lowe pod about that and like demanding that extra because you know it. Even like you look at David Griffin on the Pelicans, he's built a championship roster before. So I do agree with you. There's two things. To me, you can't have a new GM start a rebuild, and you can't have a new coach start a contender. It's rare that new coaches coach contenders into victories, and having a new GMs with a team that's going to tank because there's no security there. The moves are going to be based on self preservation at some point because all we know Stone for is losing. As if you look at his NBA record as a general manager, it's probably one of the worst in history right now. And so that's all he's known for. So at least a seasoned GM could say, I've won a ring before. So if we want to take this long route with Jalen Green, everybody would just shut the hell up and just, yeah, he's won a ring before.
Yeah.
But when you have a newer guy, it's really hard to envision what they can do because all we know them for is losing. And they haven't really shown to the NBA that they can put together a winner. I think that's where he's at right now. I'd be curious, man, to see because I also think there's a little dynamic between him and Udoka that's brewing up.
Yeah, yeah. He mentioned that they took the
I
gloves
mean,
off preseason, right? And he was like, "We have some tough
yeah,
conversations." And it's like, okay, I'm sure you had some tough ones at the trade deadline too, because I feel like Udoka was like, "Yo, go get me somebody," and he was probably
I,
like,
I think he's a little pissed. I don't know. Maybe I'm just gossiping at this point, but I feel like I'm gonna use my guy looking outside, just like reading vibes. I feel like maybe they had a spat over the deadline, and they made an organizational decision to stand where they are, and I think everybody agreed to it at some point. But personally, from hearing Udoka post game and in the preseason and everything, and throughout the season, he wanted shooting and a big man. Like that's what he stated for off rip. He wanted to add shooting to the team. And I think that we did not deliver that to him. And he is suffering for that as a coach who seems very prideful
"Yeah,
in what he puts out on the court. I think his image is being tarnished by the roster. So another little side thing that may come up as time goes on between his authority on the team and his fingerprint, Stone's authority on the team. You got the Jalen thing going on. You got who's gonna start. Exciting times coming up for the Rockets, bro. Exciting times. We
well,
got you we playing Pelicans on
it's
Thursday.
I think Pelicans and the Suns maybe two or three times, and the Thunder two times. Let me pull it up. But look, another thing I want to talk about is so it goes Pelicans, Suns, Thunder, Thunder, Suns. Eesh, that's tough. That's how we end February, and then we go straight into the Suns to start March. So it goes Pelicans, Suns, Thunder, Thunder, Suns, Suns. That's tough.
Damn.
They could go 0-6, but or 0-5. No, they could go 0-6. One thing though I want to mention, another thing that I don't think is talked about enough, and I don't we don't know this. This is just speculating, gossiping, whatever you want to call it. Um, Personal relations is a big deal in these settings, right? Who do you have relationships with? What do people think about you? How do you communicate with the other GMs? Is there anyone like it's a tight knit type club thing? You know what I mean? And if you're not in the club, I would imagine I'm just guessing here, but I would imagine it's a little harder to make deals, right? You don't have any inroads, you don't have relationships, you don't have like, hey man, like we'll build some goodwill here. You'll get it down the line, that kind of thing. I guess they tried to do that with the Hawks, and they ended up just giving up a couple second round picks because they promised to do it. But that's not what I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about like having relationships, having the skill of deal making, right? Because if you've ever been in a transaction, things can go south pretty quickly if pride gets into the room, and if you got the wrong people at the table that don't know how to table that, pun intended, and
Yeah.
get to an agreement, right? I would question um, because we've seen these press conferences, right, where it's like, I don't know, sometimes he just seems to say something that maybe gets taken the wrong way. Maybe he doesn't mean it a certain way, but people overanalyze it. but it's one of those things where you're like, why'd you even say that to begin with? You know, like Jalen on paper. You know, it's like, why'd you say that? Why don't you just lie with a smile? You
Nah,
know,
yeah.
you know what I mean? And so I just wonder if there are times where,
Yeah.
you know, they're on the phone and he might say something and another GM's like, the fuck? You know what I mean?
On paper, this is a great deal for you guys. Like, you should take it on paper. Like, what?
So I don't know. It's just, you know, when we think about these things, I wonder. And yeah, maybe I'm unnecessarily wondering, but it is something
Nah,
I wonder.
I know exactly what you're saying. He's a bit awkward, but I think he is so technical, like he to a fault. Like he says very like specific things that don't say anything. It was just a great skill. I wish I could do that. Like I probably do on some of these podcasts. Just say a lot and don't say anything at all. But all right, we could cut it there for this week, man. Y'all let us know. First of all, let us know what is your starting five for the team that you. What is your dream starting five? Put it in the comments. Also, do you think Stone has been doing a great job? Now, I already know some of these comments, bro. Just get ready. People are going to come out and basically
I
say,
know,
why are you guys so negative
I
on it?
know.
Bro, I do not care. I'm just telling you
I
right
don't give
now,
a
I do not
damn.
care.
If I gave a damn,
Yeah, I
I
don't
would
give
have
a damn
stopped a
either.
while ago.
So,
But it is what it is. Look,
yeah.
last thing I'll say, fandom is a funny thing. Twitter has really, really, really driven that home for me. I understand the fans who are like, "Hey, man, can you just gas this shit up so we can just throw a party? Because I'm just trying to have fun. This is my getaway. Why are y'all so goddamn negative?" I get it and I understand. It's just that I feel like I'm too old at this shit to have like that unbridled positivity and optimism. I've seen the circus before. I know what a clown show looks like when I see one. It is what it is. And that's just how I fan. I don't, you know, sit there and go like, rah, rah, cheer, cheer. I'm always trying to think critically about how we can be better, how the team can be better, how we can win more games. Because I remember being a kid when we won a championship. And what happened in 2018 was heartbreaking. I want to get back there. I don't want to just win 35 games and be like, cool, you know? So, anyways.
Nah, man, on that note, man, if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button. Keep rocking with the Chop Shop, and we're going to keep dropping that.